Welcome back, everybody, to the Sports Nerds podcast here on the 515 Podcast Network. I'm Brock Bierman alongside, as always, with my boy, Dawson Livingston. And we got some big news, some big storylines, some big highlights in this week of the NFL. And I'm ready to get into it, man.
Dude, I can't wait. We're about halfway through the NFL year so far, and it's flown by. But we've gotten some great games so far. We're starting to figure out who's really good and who stinks. We're getting close to the trade deadline too, so some moves are happening, and it's a good time in the NFL.
Yeah, speaking of the trade deadline, there was a trade made today where the Ravens acquired another wide receiver. The Ravens agree with a trade with the Carolina Panthers to get Deontay Johnson, who on a lot of people's stat sheets should probably be doing a little bit better, maybe. I mean, he has 357 yards this year and 3 touchdowns, but he's always been kind of that guy that a lot of people have expected him to take the next step to become maybe borderline all-pro, if not all-pro wide receiver. But he's been, on the Steelers and on the Panthers, and that doesn't help. So he's finally on a team where he's got an MVP caliber quarterback in his room. And so what are your thoughts on this trade? And does it improve the Ravens? Does it kind of keep them the same where they're at? Or overall, what are your thoughts?
Definitely makes the Ravens better. And when I saw the tweet from Adam Schefter, or maybe it was Ian Rappaport, regardless, it made me mad as a Chiefs fan because this is someone I wanted on Kansas City until they got D-Hop. But
I was going to say, you guys got D-Hop, you're fine.
But the fact that he's going to Baltimore makes me so mad because Baltimore was already my biggest worry in the AFC. Now they're adding even more on offense. We already know what Derrick Henry and Lamar look like. You give Lamar another reliable wide receiver to pair him with Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, and even a guy like Mark Andrews, who's been playing really good the last few weeks. It just makes me mad. Wasn't it like only for a 6th or a 5th round pick swap? Something very not meaningless, but trade that's not really going to move the needle for either team.
Yeah.
But it's a really good route for the Ravens. And again, Carolina, what are we doing? You guys are just the most down bad franchise I think I've seen in the last 10 or 15 years of the NFL.
We talked about it a little bit with the Browns before and how their situation, maybe it was because of the ownership and not because of the quarterback talent or just the talent on the roster. I'm starting to think that David Tepper, the owner of the Carolina Panthers, might be part of the issue of why Carolina can't make that leap to get back into contention or at least competitiveness in their own division, let alone the NFL.
Yeah, because ever since Tepper took over the Panthers in 2021?
Let me look here. Purchased the Panthers in 2018.
Okay, so they had a couple decent years. The last 2 good years of Cam Newton when Christian McCaffrey was obviously in his prime. They were competitive then. But ever since they tried to move on and go to a new regime, it has just not worked. We've talked about the Bryce Young trade for hours and hours and hours on end, and how it is arguably the worst move of all time. It's up there in the NFL. I mean, there's one other one you could certainly make a case for, which I'm sure we'll touch on in a little bit.
Yep.
But if you're a Panthers fan, you have been through hell and back ever since 2015. Ever since Cam Newton didn't dive on the football in the Super Bowl, Panthers fans have been really going through it.
I truly believe that was the better team. And on paper, that Panthers team should have easily won the Super Bowl that year in 2015. I really do believe that. The talent on that roster and where they were all at their respective points of their career, the Panthers should have easily won by 10-plus points.
Right, because you could argue that season they had the best offensive player in the league and the best defensive player in the league, Luke Kuechly. And they had plenty of complementary players across the board. We talk about a guy like Greg Olsen, who doesn't get a whole lot of respect when it comes to all-time tight ends, but is one of the more consistent tight ends that the NFL has had over the last 15 years. Their defense was very dominant. That was peak Josh Norman when he was trash talking Odell. That was when the Panthers defense was at its all-time best. But man, Carolina, you've been going through it, and I legit feel bad. I legit feel bad for that organization.
It was like you at least if you were a Carolina fan, you supported all the North Carolina teams. You struggle to watch a lot of them. The Hornets, of course, being one of them. But at least you had something to look forward to with the Panthers being at least competitive, and they're not really there anymore, and it's unfortunate. And we'll see if they ever get back to that level. It's gonna take a lot, and I'm not gonna lie. I think it really starts back at the ownership level, and they need to look at themselves in the mirror and decide, am I really a person that is here to own a team to win, or am I just owning a team because I want to say I am an NFL owner? Because I do think there are people like that in the NFL, not just the NFL, any sports league that owns a
Oh
team.
yeah.
Oh yeah, I get to say that I own a team because not many people can do that, and especially if you're a majority owner, or if you own an entire franchise, that's a rarity now in the professional sports world at the highest level because of how much those teams are now estimated to be valued at. Which, like, I don't think a top NFL team that goes up for sale will ever be owned by an individual ever again because of how much they are valued at. And the NBA, maybe depending on who the team is, it's just going to be hard for that to ever be a thing. And so if you're the majority owner, or if you are the owner and you're struggling and your team keeps struggling, at some point it's not the team, it's you, and you need to evaluate what you're doing. And maybe it's who you're staffing in the front office, who you're putting in the coaching staff, or who you're looking at as overall talent, because you made that move. Obviously the owner probably didn't have a whole lot of say in making that move for Bryce Young, but you hired the people that made that move. So it's still a reflection on the certain decisions that you may have made to set up your team and where they're at currently. So that was the big trade that came out today. And I think that was like around the midday news rush with the NFL. Big news out of Houston, though. Wide receiver, former All-Pro wide receiver Stephon Diggs is out for the year with a torn ACL. Big hit to Houston, who made the move to get Stephon Diggs from Buffalo. I felt like he was going to be a big boost to their offense. The record shows that they've been doing really well, but they just lost a key asset to their offensive scheme.
Right, and that's Houston's second weapon they've lost in the last few weeks. Obviously, Nico Collins is still on IR. I think he should be back playing football in the next few weeks, which good for Texans fans. But now Houston's definitely got to look at the wide receiver market and see if they can trade for anyone, because without Stephon Diggs, that wide receiver room is very, very young, very inexperienced when it comes to like postseason. I'm not saying Stephon Diggs has had a whole lot of postseason success, but
He's had a
he's
lot
at
of
least
experience.
right. Yeah, he's had a lot of experience. We're a guy like Nico Collins. They had the one playoff game last year. Tank Dell only had the one playoff game last year. I believe they still have Robert Woods on roster, and Woods has been to a Super Bowl, so Woods knows like how to like lead a wide receiver group. But I just think that they really could use one more.
I mean, they got Xavier Hutchinson, man. Don't sleep on my boy X.
What is he? Wide receiver 4, 5?
Shut up.
I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
he shows up once or twice a game.
Yeah. Hey, just give him a red zone threat. Just throw it up to him. But for the Texans, obviously huge loss. Obviously huge for Diggs too. I think it was on the last year of his deal, so he'll be an unrestricted free agent come
And
March.
it'll hurt what his value is.
Right, because I'm sure Stephon was thinking he can get one more huge deal before he's in the twilight era of his career. And now, coming off a torn ACL, with it being in the end of March, you would hope and pray that he gets back before training camp, but that's not guaranteed whatsoever. You're probably looking that he's not going to be ready till maybe the start of next season. So we'll see. And it sucks for Houston too, because they're one of the up and coming teams this year. They made a lot of moves to really go for it this year because they believe in their offense and, more importantly, CJ Stroud. But yeah, big blow for the Texans.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation. A lot of teams have had some difficult injuries over the past couple weeks. Tua, though, came back for the Miami Dolphins, and we don't need to talk about that game. The Cardinals did come out with another game-winning field goal win, which credit to the Cardinals. The NFC West is an absolute crapshoot, man. The Cardinals are tied with, I think, Seattle and San Francisco.
Yep.
Or Yeah, Seattle and
Yep, it's both.
San Francisco. But they have the tiebreaker against San Francisco. So I think right now,
They're
based off
number
of all
one.
the tiebreakers, the Arizona Cardinals are the number one team in the NFC West, which is absolutely hilarious that we're even talking about this heading into the midweek. The midseason week.
Now, can I ask you something? Are you happy about this?
No,
Or are
because
you
I think we've been playing bad, but we're winning. That's the weirdest part
see?
about it.
So, I guess my question is: would you rather finish the season at like 8-9, maybe sneak in, maybe miss out by a game, or would you rather the Cardinals just, you know what, throw in the white?
They're in too deep now. They have to win.
That's true. Yeah.
That's my perspective. Is if you're at the mid-season point of the NFL season and you're in playoff contention right now, I think the playoffs would have them based off of
They would host a playoff
yeah,
game.
they would host a playoff game, be the 4 seed. So it's one of those things where it's like, no, you're in too deep right now. You have wins against a lot. You're 2-0 in your own division against LA and San Francisco. You haven't played Seattle yet, from the looks of it. I'm trying. Yeah, they go at Seattle, at Minnesota, home versus Seattle. So they play Seattle 2 times in 3 weeks. You get one of those. That means you're 3-1, potentially 3-1 in division heading into December. And dude, it's just the Cardinals. It doesn't make sense to me because I feel like I watch them and it's like they're not doing anything impressive to me except for Kyler. Kyler has had a good year. I will give him that. 11 touchdowns to 3 interceptions, 1,600 yards passing, and then a lot of great runs on the ground, which I thought would be a little bit of a struggle. I know he's coming off of the ACL tear from 2 years ago, but he's had some great runs. His 2 rushing touchdowns were very impressive. That he's had this year. One of them where he was pointing up to the sky before he even got past the line of scrimmage, it looked like, in celebration of the Super Bowl, in celebration of the touchdown. That was his Super Bowl, was getting that 50-yard run against San Francisco. My Super Bowl for sure. But the Cardinals, they're weird because I don't think that they've played unbelievably well, but they're 4-4 and they're in contention to win a division against a divisional opponent who a lot of people, including myself, placed in the Super Bowl.
Do you know who the Cardinals would play today in the playoffs? Do you want to know is the answer?
No.
Well, I'm going to tell you anyway. Green Bay. You would host the Green Bay Packers round 1.
Oh, inject into veins. Inject into veins. Arizona versus Green Bay.
We've seen this story a couple times.
Yeah. You can hit a Hail Mary against Arizona. If you're Green Bay, you can hit a Hail Mary against them in the playoffs. It won't matter.
Larry Fitz, 80 yards the other way.
And I tell you what, Marvin Harrison and Kyler are starting to get their feel for each other.
They are.
So, but enough about that team. There's honestly some bigger stories in the NFL right now that we should be talking about. One of those is you predicted the pumpkin game or the pumpkin games upcoming for Sam Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings. They dropped their second game of the season, fall to 5-2 after losing to the Los Angeles Rams. 30-20 was the final score. Stafford had 4 touchdowns. There was a rumor at one point that Minnesota may trade for Stafford. I don't know if I think that has completely died.
Oh, yeah.
But what are your thoughts on the Vikings at this point in the year? Starting off very impressive. I think they reached number 2 in my rankings at one point, and now they are no longer in our rankings which we'll get to in a couple minutes here. But what are your thoughts?
I don't want to say that I saw this coming from Minnesota, but I said this 4 weeks ago. Yep. I said that Sam Darnold's on pumpkin watch, where he's going to have a Sam Darnold game. Granted, Minnesota did not play bad last Thursday. Like let the record show, I don't think Minnesota played bad. And I think Minnesota got hosed on that last call on the face mask, or should have been face mask. But again, there's the stats out there. It's a real stat. Every team that plays the Lions the week after they lose, because the Lions are such a physical football team. And they were on a short week going to a Rams team that not only got Cooper Kupp back, but surprisingly got Puka Nacua back. And was doing circles with Puka and Cooper, and even Demarcus Robinson was catching touchdowns for the Rams. Like, I think once this Rams offense is fully healthy, like if they keep this up, I think they could easily sneak back into the playoffs. I think the roster is that talented.
I agree, and with how close the division is,
Right.
it's.
I mean, they're only one game back, and
It's honestly half a game.
Right. Have they even played anyone in the division?
The Rams?
They've lost to the Cardinals. The Cardinals smoked.
Yeah, I was gonna say we won week 2,
but they've beaten the Niners, so they have a head-to-head win over San Fran.
So does everybody in that division not named Seattle.
You know what? Fair enough.
But no, I agree. The Rams, dude, I'm telling you, anybody from the NFC West can come out at this point. At the same, I feel like any team. I think only San Francisco would be the only team that I would be shocked. They would be the only team I'd be shocked if they don't make the playoffs. Still, again, because of who they have on their roster. I know injuries have killed them again, but I still feel like they have enough to get to there, get to the playoffs at least. So if I had to put money on it, would I bet on at least the 49ers making the playoffs or 2 NFC West teams that are not named San Fran to make the playoffs? I'd still put my money on San Francisco.
Hold on, I'm checking really quick.
Is there an actual bet about that?
Well, yeah, you can pick who's going to win the division. So San Fran's still the favorite at minus 110, followed by the Cardinals, and then at plus 290, and then Seahawks and Rams are both tied for plus 500. So
it's just an interesting division, and we'll see what goes on from there. Let's get into our players of the week because we both have the same person, and for not just for the memes, but honestly a great performance. The final score of this game for this guy. Well, first let's get into his stat line before we even mention who this guy is. He went 27 of 41 passing, 334 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns, and was only sacked twice, and had a 29-24 victory against the Baltimore Ravens to get the second win of the season for this team. Jameis Winston is our player of the week.
Yes.
I said it earlier in the year. You can't spell Winston without win, and Jameis Winston
wins.
He wins. And Cleveland, I'm not going to overreact and think, oh, playoffs.
Oh, no, now they are for sure. I'm just kidding.
I'm not going there yet. But what a performance from Jameis Winston after a weird week, obviously in the Browns organization, but what's new with them? 334 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, and a huge divisional victory against the Ravens, which, I mean, everybody else in that division is smiling right now, the fact that Cleveland won that game.
Right, because if you look at even a team like Cincinnati, I mean, Cincinnati's only 2 games back of Baltimore. Although I think didn't Cincinnati lose to Baltimore earlier, so really 3 games back. But 3 games back with almost 8 or 9 games to go in the regular season. Some teams 10 games to go. Yeah, I mean, definitely could be worse. Yeah, man, it's good. I feel like we were in 2015. Like I said this last week when we were with Bank, like Marcus Mariota's getting snaps, Jameis Winston's starting games now. Just makes me happy. It makes me looks like we're watching the first CFP ever, the Florida State and Oregon and the Rose Bowl. Makes me feel like I'm watching that.
We're eating W's, baby.
Yes.
But shout out Jameis Winston for a big W. I'm hoping it continues. Now I kind of hope that like Cleveland just turns around and like goes off the next couple weeks.
Oh, they got a couple winnable games.
Chargers and Saints, very winnable games. Chargers at home too.
Yeah, Steelers.
I think the Steelers are really good. I'm not gonna lie. I think I may have overreacted on last year's performance from Russell Wilson in Denver. I do think he is fit decently well with the Steelers, and I do think that they have what it takes to easily win that division, as well as maybe make a little bit of noise in the playoffs. So I will take back what I said earlier in the year. Well, I guess I can't ever take back what you say, but I will say that I was in the wrong. Russell is actually pretty good. I still prefer Justin Fields over Russell Wilson, but it's working out for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who get their 6th win of the year, 26-18 win against the New York Giants. Russell Wilson, 278 yards through the air, 1 touchdown. And that catch from George Pickens in the back of the end zone where he touched twice with 1 foot, but due to the rule that he needs to have both feet down to be considered a completion, it was ruled incomplete. I think there should be like an asterisk, like,
that was kind of cool. Count that. That's a catch.
That's a catch because he basically touched twice.
He did.
It's one of those things where it's like, I get the rule, but that should have been a catch, and that should have been a touchdown for the Steelers, but it didn't really matter. The Steelers ended up still getting a victory. Do you want to talk about the weird substitution, or do you want to talk about the Hail Mary first?
Let's get the Anthony Richardson stuff out of the way.
Okay. I didn't watch the game, so I didn't really see this happen live or anything. Anthony Richardson, I think, ran the ball, gets tackled, and then taps the side of his helmet, which means like he needs subbed out for a play. So he sits out, and that's the story. And because I've never seen that happen with a quarterback where they asked to sit out a play. Have you ever seen that?
No, not unless you thought you like rolled your ankle or you tweaked your hamstring or something. I have never seen that, and I didn't think I would ever see that.
So I assumed, okay, this guy must be hurt or something must have happened, must have tweaked something. Then post game, he's like, nah, I was just tired. What?
Dude, you can be tired. You also can just lie. You can be like, hey.
Just lie. At this point, lie. That's what I'm saying.
I'm not saying that phrase of him saying I was just tired cost him his job. But I'm also not saying it didn't cost him his job, if that makes sense. I think that was a huge part of it. Not only to go with his play. And that's coming from someone who really thought Richardson was going to be good. As someone who took him in fantasy in multiple different leagues. So thank you for that, Anthony. But, yeah.
For those that don't know, Joe Flacco will be the starter for the Colts in their next game. Anthony Richardson has been benched. I don't know if I'm ready to go out on the limb, but this might be the last. That might have been the last game that Anthony Richardson plays in. I'm not going to lie, because that's an embarrassment.
Yeah, it's certainly not a great look. I don't think it's the last game we'll see him play in, because I think the Colts are still going to give him one more shot next year. Because, to be fair, his first season, I won't really count too much against him. He only played 4 games, and he dealt with an injury earlier this year, so he's really only played like 8-9 games total with the Colts. But if we get to next season and the Colts come out of the gate, they're 1-3, and Richardson still has the same kind of stats as he has right now, and then I would totally agree with you. But I just don't think the Colts are going to give up on him quite yet. And even if they did, I don't know what their next move at quarterback is, because you're not going to bank on Joe Flacco coming back every single year.
Well, yeah, Joe Flacco, his days has got to be numbered in terms of playing, and it's not because he's bad. It's just because he's old. He's getting up there in age.
39? Does that sound right? 38?
Yeah, and 38, 39 is not 38, 39 of the NBA with LeBron. This is Joe Flacco we're talking.
Yeah.
And again, no hate on him. He's had a great career, has the Super Bowl championship as a starting quarterback, but it's just not the same. What?
Super Bowl MVP.
Super Bowl
Joe
MVP.
Flacco.
Sorry about that.
Delaware legend. Go Blue Hens.
It's just a weird thing that I don't think I've ever seen before. Don't think we'll ever see it again. And I think Anthony Richardson, unfortunately, is going to have to learn his lesson from that. Great athlete. Terrible decision by just saying I was tired. Probably should have just lied. I feel like the PR team should have said something. Like they would have because I know that after games, the PR team, they come in and they talk to the players that they know that the media is going to want to talk to in the press conferences and everything. You think that they would have been like, okay, what are you going to say when they ask you about why you took that snap off? It's just a weird situation that really probably just ruined his season for sure. and maybe a little bit of his credibility and reputation as a quarterback.
Can I bring up one? Still,
Yep.
like, I don't want to say the silver lining, but I think there's a little bit of hope. Is we've seen quarterbacks get drafted into the NFL and then move to a different position. Like, it's not uncommon. There's one on the Ravens right now. I think it's Malik Cunningham. I think he's a wide receiver. He plays for the Ravens right now. Another one I always think of is Terrell Pryor. Terrell Pryor was a great college quarterback. Got drafted as a quarterback in the NFL. Realized after his days in Oakland wasn't going to work out. Ended up being a wide receiver for Cleveland.
What position would you put him at?
I put him at either wide receiver or tight end. Although him at like D end would be absolutely terrifying with how fast he is.
That's true. We'll see what happens. And hey, those positions you can take plays off.
Right, like Pryor's best year as a receiver was actually fairly good. Started in 15 games, had 77 catches, 1,000 yards, 4 touchdowns. Also had a touchdown on the ground. Like, you could still like be a productive player in the NFL, even though like you don't have to be a quarterback, if that's what I'm saying.
Yep, I agree. Obviously, the biggest news or the biggest highlight from this weekend was the final play of the Washington Commanders Chicago Bears matchup between two rookie quarterbacks. By the way, the fact that this even came down to the last play blows my mind. Washington was up 12-0 for the longest time, it felt like. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden I saw that it was 15-12 and I'm like, what's going on? Chicago's winning? What? And then Washington, Jaden Daniels and the Commanders, they get a Hail Mary that will be talked about for the longest time. Not specifically, I don't think they're talking about it for the impressive play that the Commanders had. I think they're talking more about a specific defensive player.
Yeah, this is certainly not a good look if you're a Bears fan.
I mean, I got just.
I have a lot of thoughts on this game that we'll get to after this clip.
No, I'll play this clip a couple times. Feel free to.
I think that Bears second half coaching, I think is some of the worst coaching I think I've ever seen in an NFL game. Why on earth are you giving it to a backup center on the 1 yard line in a close game and thinking, without a doubt, oh, this is going to work? When you have a decent passing attack, I mean, Caleb's not quite to what he is going to be, I believe, but you still have a fairly decent passing attack. You have DeAndre Swift, who's a very good running back in the NFL, but yet you're trying to reenact William Perry 40 years later and trying to give an offensive lineman a touchdown. And on the Hail Mary, Chicago, you have 3 timeouts, and you used none of them. I think it was, one of the Bears defensive players after the game said, yeah, we couldn't get our thoughts together. We needed time. Or something along those lines. Like, we needed
13
to take a
seconds. That's how long it took Jaden Daniels to throw.
Like, if you're Matt Eberflus, you have 3 timeouts. Use 2 if you have to. Use all 3 if you have to make sure you got the right defensive adjustments in. You got the right play going.
Can't take them to the bank.
Oh, man. It's just mind-blowing to me. Because, I'm a believer in the Bears and what they've got going with Caleb. But this is certainly not a good look for the Bears.
It's not a good look. And, a lot of people are going to be talking about Stevenson for years to come, becoming one of the biggest memes in the NFL. If he wasn't a decent corner, he would probably not have a job today. I'm not going to lie.
For sure.
But it's unfortunate. This is a video that I wanted to show Dawson, but I didn't show him before the show because I wanted to get his live reaction. Yes. This news reporter, let me see if I can figure out where this was. Let me look here. This was on Fox Channel 5 of DC or something like that. If it was the correct place. If not, I apologize for crediting the wrong news station, but I think that's who posted it. This guy was interviewing a Commanders fan while the play was happening. I don't know if you know about this, but he was interviewing him while it was happening, assuming that the Commanders lost. So here's the clip.
I feel as though it was a good game because it was close. Like, I feel as though we won, for real. We lost. What I say? We won.
What I say, buddy, you can't claim that. You can't.
That's so great. He's just like,
I feel as though it was a good game because it was close.
It's like we won.
Like, I feel as though we won, for real. We lost.
Like, instantly the touchdown happens.
What I say? We won. What I say? We won.
You can't claim that. I'm sorry.
That's great.
If you're already saying like, "Yep,"
but
lost
like
this game.
honestly though, if that would have happened to me, I would never let anybody hear the end of that.
Oh my god,
it was
dude.
instantly. He was like, "It's like we won," and then instantly, the Hail Mary
I
happened.
feel as though we won, for real. We lost. What I say? We won. What I say?
I guess what I think regarding this clip is all the fans that leave these games early because they think it's over.
Never leave early.
No,
Score is.
My friends hate me for that sole reason because I will stay until I see triple zeros on the clock because I feel like you got to get full price of your ticket. Regardless, I mean I'll stay if it's a blowout, but oh man, that is my one pet peeve. I hate when
you're a Chiefs fan. I'm an Iowa State fan. We both know that it is not over until it's triple zeros on that clock in either the fourth quarter or the second half.
Could not agree. Oh man, poor Chase.
I saw the Yankees hit a grand slam. Yeah. For those that don't know, there should be a show coming out later today or Thursday morning of the Hardwood Convos podcast, and we were hyping up the Dodgers because we record both episodes of the Hardwood Convos and the Sports Nerds this night.
And Brock jinxed him. Brock said that the Dodgers.
No, there's a lot of games left. Okay, there's still a lot of baseball left. A lot of baseball left.
That's true. It is only the fourth inning, but
I may or may have not have said that the Dodgers would win the World Series because they're up 3-0.
Aaron Judge watch. Still 0 hits.
Bum.
He's gotten walked and then hit by a pitch.
And that's not because he's like Barry Bonds and they don't want him hitting.
No. See, they walked Juan Soto because they know Juan Soto is going to hit a tank. But Aaron Judge, they're like, dude, we know you couldn't catch a cold right now with how bad you're hitting.
It's rough for sure. Let's get into our power rankings for the week. I know I didn't get a chance to watch your guys' episode last week. I was dealing with a cold, like so bad because I had to work the Iowa State football game the weekend before, and you probably don't remember, but Iowa State won off of the last offensive possession that they had, and working that game when you're trying to make sure everybody can hear you through the headset while everybody in the crowd is absolutely losing their mind, you got to yell. So the mixture of that, having a cold and not having a water bottle the entire second half, I didn't have a voice Sunday through Wednesday. So thank you to your buddy for holding us down for the show.
Let me pull up the power rankings from last week. That way we can.
Oh, I can get them here if you want.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah. That's mine. Yep, that looks right. Yep, that's Braden's.
You got some changes in yours.
I do.
Big changes.
Yep. You'll find out when we get to the next one.
So, Dawson's power rankings last week: Kansas City at number 1, Baltimore at 2, Detroit at 3, Green Bay at 4, and Houston at 5. And Dawson, do you want to list off your top 5 for your new power rankings?
I would absolutely love to. All right. This team is going to stay number 1. I've said it the last 7 weeks until they lose a game or look terrible. Spoiler alert, they haven't done either so far. And I'm knocking on wood as I say that, but they're looking good. Detroit at 2. Anytime you hang 52 on someone, you're a pretty good team. I will respect that. So yeah, Detroit goes at 2. Houston goes at 3, and I know that they lost Stephon Diggs for the year. Obviously a brutal loss, but I think this Texans team has still enough talent to really make a run in the AFC. Buffalo finally getting back on track, being 6-2. They beat Oh man, who did they beat on Sunday? Let me pull up their schedule. They beat the Seahawks by 21. Seattle's a fairly good team. They won in Seattle too, which I always think is impressive because Seattle's one of the toughest places to play. And then Washington, here's your moment of glory right here. I think after the highs and lows of that game, the fact that you guys were still able to pull that off is great. I think it's the first time they've been in my power rankings all year, or
I think
maybe
so.
the second time. But Washington, enjoy your moment because I guess I don't know who they. Well, I mean, you'll probably be here next week. You play the Dolphins, so yeah, that's my power rankings for this week.
You don't think they're on pumpkin watch or anything?
No, just Minnesota.
All right. Well, I have literally the same exact teams as you.
Just little different order.
You could say that. I'm gonna go through 5-1 just for the people that are in the audio only podcast. I got Washington at 5 as well. I mean, they've been playing decent football and very impressive rookie season for Jaden Daniels. I think he pretty much has rookie of the year locked up. I mean, Dawson's going to talk a little bit about where everybody stands in the awards situation heading into the midway week of the NFL season. Houston at number 4. I didn't consider putting them. I did consider putting them at 3. I think Buffalo and Houston, you can trade wherever they are depending on the week. Diggs getting hurt doesn't help. That wasn't a reason why I put them at 4. I just think Buffalo has been playing a little bit better recently. So I put Buffalo at 3 and Houston at 4. At number 2, I might be the only person in the world that might put a undefeated team, the only undefeated team in a league, not at number 1. I put Kansas City at number 2. Here's my reasoning. Yes, Detroit has lost a game, but in my personal opinion, Detroit is playing the best football in the NFL right now. And you will get to your odds or whatever. I'm ready to start making a case for maybe Jared Goff being a potential MVP candidate this year. This offense is rolling. They have 3 games where they score over 40 points, a 52-point game, which they had against the Titans last week, 52-14. They are undefeated when they score over 21 points this year. I think it's 5-0 or 6-0. Only loss they have this year is to the Buccaneers, where they only scored 16 points. But this Lions team, I feel like overall is playing better football right now than Kansas City. Kansas City had a good game last week against the Raiders, which scared me a little bit because it seemed like the Raiders were going to do what they did last year at first at Kansas City on Christmas Day, I think it was. But they came out with a 7-point victory against the Raiders. However, they've had, again, 7-point win against the Raiders is kind of sneaky. I get that it's in an interdivisional opponent, but they've had some close games against some teams that I don't feel are that good. So just because of the scoring differential in some of these games, I'd give Detroit the upper hand currently in the power rankings, even though they do have 1 loss compared to Kansas City.
I am amazed that you just like to be wrong. I mean, it's plain. We'll see. We'll see. You may be right come February. We'll see. I'm not going to comment.
I took Dallas to the NFC Championship game, so
you did, and I took Cincinnati to the AFC title game, which isn't looking great as we speak. But what are they, 3-5? So I will say this.
I just think the record doesn't say everything. I think right now, performance-wise, Detroit's playing the best football.
Can I bring up a point with Kansas City?
Yeah.
So I think offensively, we know they have struggled this year. Like, there's no question about it. But does Kansas City not have the best defense in the NFL?
I think right now it would be the best defense versus the best offense if Detroit and Kansas City played each other.
Like, almost reminding me of, was it the Seattle and Denver Super Bowl, where it was the number 1 offense versus number 1 defense?
Yep.
Like, statistically.
Yep.
How did that Super Bowl go? 43-8? Does that sound right? snap over the
I
head of Peyton
would
Manning first
give
play?
Detroit's defense an upper hand against that Denver defense.
You think Detroit's defense is better than the Denver defense? With
I mean,
Von
they
Miller
haven't
and
given up
DeMarcus
over
Ware.
40 points.
I don't
That
know.
was also 2 years before Von Miller became
That's fair. Okay,
Von
I will
Miller.
concede to that. The last time Kansas City's given up 28 or more, or 27 or more? You know how
I
many
would have
games
guessed
in a row
the
it's been?
Raiders, Christmas Day.
They haven't given up. I think it's either 28 or more or 27 or more since the Super Bowl against the Eagles.
Okay.
So 27, 28 games in a row, which is tied for the longest streak in the last 30 years or 20 years with the 05 to 07 Ravens.
What number was that? 27?
I think it's either 27 in a row or 28 in a row.
For 25 points or more? Or was it 20?
27.
27? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the Lions are 2 points away in 2 games from being in that similar situation where they haven't given up over 27 this year. But again, it's one of those where it's like, I think the offense right now, it would be who would make the biggest play on the opposite side of the field for both teams. Patrick Mahomes or sneaky Dan Campbell, who finds a way to win games on the defensive side every once in a while.
Right, and I agree. I still think Detroit's the second best team in the league. I don't think there's any argument to that. I think Kansas City and Detroit are in a tier of their own as we speak. I'm still really cautious with how well this defense is going to hold up without Aiden Hutchinson.
If Aiden Hutchinson didn't get hurt, I would feel even more confident about what I'm saying right now. But the fact that he did get hurt, it does hurt my argument a little bit. It was one of those things where it's like I wanted to last week, honestly, but it's just I don't know.
There is a week before the trade deadline, and I've seen many reports and many rumors that Detroit's really looking for a pass rusher. Now, I've seen some outlandish ones that say Max Crosby's going back to Detroit. I don't think that's happening. I've seen ones where Myles Garrett's going to Detroit. That one's not happening either. But maybe a guy on Cleveland like Zadarius Smith, who's played for 2 other teams in that division. I think he's still got a lot of juice left. Maybe bring up a guy like Jadeveon Clowney, who just rush him on third down. I think Clowney is one of the crazy athletic freaks that we've had the last 15 years in the NFL. I think Clowney's still got probably one more good playoff run left in him. But I think if Detroit makes a move from now until the trade deadline on next Tuesday, then I think Detroit's really going to be scary come the playoffs. But
yeah, I'm just making the argument, man.
It's
Detroit
true.
might
It's
be
true.
the best
Hey,
team in the NFL.
I'm open to hearing it. I just will reject any idea of Kansas City. No, I'm kidding. I won't reject every single one.
I mean, hey, they are the defending 2-time Super Bowl champs, so I guess I might be a little bit crazy. But let's get into our top 5. Not, I just realized it says Braden too. But yeah, this is officially Braden's NFL. Yeah, yes. So if you have any issues with my top 5, actually complain to Braden.
Yeah, I will. I'll send him a text.
Yeah, just be like, hey, why you got Detroit at number 1? But
that's true. He probably would. If I text him, he probably would.
Let's do our top 5. Nothing revolving. Well, I guess just not specific about current state of the NFL. We're doing arenas / stadiums that we've been to. I think you went on a more of a side of overall environment of the arena or the looks of the arena. Mm-hmm. I went from the perspective of memories from the said arena. So it'll be interesting to see what our lists look like. But let's start with you at number 5. Oh, there's mine. Oh, did I not? Here we go. There we go.
Okay. So yeah, number 5. This is it's the second NBA arena I've ever been inside of. I don't really, no offense to the Pacers, but I think it's Bankers Life Fieldhouse. There's not a whole lot going on. United Center, it is truly one of the coolest arenas I think anyone can go to. Like looking up into the rafters and seeing the 6 straight titles, seeing Jordan's number retired, Pippen's number retired, like everyone from the 90s, I think is super cool. Plus, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's the biggest basketball arena
for the
NBA.
Yeah.
At like 18 or 19,000. They always seem to sell it out. The one game I went to in United Center was Bulls versus Cavs. My Cavs did not win that game, but still a really cool experience to go to, and probably my favorite basketball arena to go to.
You mentioned 6 straight titles. Did Hakeem not win any?
I mean, 6
championships?
titles in the 90s, whatever.
I was gonna make
Yeah,
sure.
to
Don't
the
be
Bulls
hating on
fans, it
my
would've-
boy Hakeem Olajuwon.
To Bulls fans, it would have been 8 straight, but whatever. I digress. I mean, I had to throw this one in. I couldn't put it ahead of. I couldn't put it. I'm sorry, I couldn't
You had
put
to
it
put
ahead of
the
the top
bias.
3. Yeah, absolutely. I will always show my bias with any sports take. There's a couple different reasons. I think going to Kinnick Stadium, participating in the wave, I think it's always super cool. I think that's what a lot of Iowa fans like sometimes will take for granted, and I think it's the coolest college tradition in all like traditions period in college sports. So I think that alone puts up at number 4. Plus the history.
It's in its own category for tradition, so it's hard to argue against it.
It's I get what
the
you're
most
saying.
Unique tradition in college, unique/special tradition in college sports.
No.
I'm not gonna say anything because I'm gonna get in trouble. I can't say anything. So
okay, I'll just keep going. But the history that Kinnick's been open since the 30s, and honestly, there's times where it's like we need some major renovations. Mainly, I'm talking about the bathrooms in Kinnick.
The troughs.
They got rid of the troughs.
Oh, they don't have the troughs?
5 or 6 years ago. No more troughs. Everyone gets a urinal now, but oh boy, there's some nasty parts of Kinnick.
They at least have the doors in between each urinal, or is it wide open?
No, they got doors. No, they don't actually.
I think Jack Trice is wide open. It's just
it's wide open. It's just a whole line of urinals, but yeah, the Kinnick's always going to hold a special place.
I will take a stall before I will ever.
You don't want to no trough.
No, that's
hey.
disgusting.
Then you don't want to go to Arrowhead then, because I think it's all still troughs.
Guess where I'm going next week?
Arrowhead. U.S. Bank. This was the coolest and newest stadium I think I've been in the last. But I've been alive 21 years, so really the last 10 to 15. Going up there for the Final Four, what is 5 years ago now, which feels kind of insane to talk about. Everything about that stadium is super nice. It feels huge inside. It honestly is still the nicest sporting venue I think I've ever been inside of. It would be unreal to see a football game there, but me and Brock saw a basketball game there. We saw what do you think was in US Bank? 80,000 people watching that Final Four game?
Let me look.
Because I think US Bank regularly holds probably 70,000 and probably another 5 to maybe 10,000 on the floor that they've added seating.
National championship saw 72,000.
But still a lot of people to see one basketball game. I'm not going to lie. At some point, it just felt like we were watching little dots on the court.
Oh, that's all. You didn't see the players. You didn't know who was scoring.
You only knew what was happening based on the reaction of like the student sections and the crowds that were like in the 100s. But
it was about the environment.
Right, but the environment was cool, and yeah, it's the nicest sporting venue I think I've ever been to. Oh man, this one, I love the stadium, but I've had bad memories at the stadium. I'm not gonna lie. I've seen my team, my Iowa Hawkeyes, put a total of 3 points up in 2 games.
What's wrong with Lucas Oil Stadium? I only have great memories from watching games.
I hate Michigan. Let the record show.
Hey, Cade McNamara threw a touchdown there.
Oh man,
he did. He did throw a passing touchdown.
A lot of people threw a passing touchdown against Iowa in 2021. Okay, even Donovan Edwards, who's still playing college football, threw a passing touchdown against Iowa. But this stadium is super cool, especially for like, this can be a little personal, but like my dad and my whole family's like super into drag racing. When you walk into the stadium, you see all of the Lucas Oil branded cars there, which I think is sick. I think it's very unique too. And then when you walk in, the roof of Lucas Oil feels like it's 1,000 feet in the air. It just feels like it's ridiculous. Like, there's not a whole lot of like championship banners in there. I think the Colts only have like 2 titles, but like still an unreal stadium. I just wish that Iowa would occasionally put up a touchdown when I go there. But I digress. They don't need to do that. But I mean, this is also biased. But I think Brock's gonna agree when he goes down in a week. But
I'm going to an Iowa State Kansas game. I don't think that's gonna make a reason why Arrowhead is number in the top 5 for you.
This stadium is the loudest stadium in the NFL. I would argue maybe in all of like American sports. I'm not going to argue with any European sports, like because people that watch soccer are just insane over there. So I'm not going to get too carried away with that. But Arrowhead, man, especially the last few years when they've had Mahomes and they've really been rolling.
When they're good, they're loud.
Yeah, well, they were good loud with Alex Smith too. I've been to an Alex Smith playoff game.
Don't be hating on my boy Alex Smith. They had some good teams.
They did. They just couldn't get past the divisional round. And I love Alex Smith. I love check down Alex. But Alex set the floor for Mahomes to succeed. And man, yeah, Arrowhead, when you go down there, you won't get the same atmosphere as like a normal Chiefs game. But that stadium and like the way it's built with I don't know, dude. It is one of the coolest stadiums.
The square circle. It looks like a square, but it's also a circle.
Yeah. But
I can't believe you have so much bias in your freaking rankings.
Brock, okay. Get in your rankings then.
So you probably don't know what this place is. Municipal Auditorium. It's in Kansas City, Missouri.
That's not the T-Mobile Center?
No, I'm talking what was holding the Big 12 women's tournament for not for the longest time, for like 4 or 5 years. It's literally, if you Google images of this, you'd be like, why this place? It's such an old, crappy, ran down area that it's so cool to be in and watch a basketball game. It makes no sense, but it does when you actually go there. It is so fun. And the times that I went there, Iowa State always is competing for a Big 12 championship. So Iowa State fans are probably one of the few fans that actually like goes to the Big 12 women's tournaments. So it's always packed and super loud. And it's so crappy, but it has such a special place in my heart because of how crappy it is. It made it even more special. Like, dude, the concession stands, like, I think they had tables out. They didn't even I know they had concession stands, but like a lot of them were just tables. You had to walk up this huge ramp just to get to your seats. It special place. Anybody that's been there and actually seen a basketball game will know what I'm talking about. It's crappy, but special crappy. Everybody knows what special. Everybody has a special crappy thing in their life, and that's what this is. Number 4, U.S. Bank Stadium. Just a great time at the Final Four. I probably won't. There's not much really to add on to what Dawson talked about in the environment and the entertainment from it. Number 3, I don't really know their actual name. I think it's just Oklahoma Memorial Stadium. I went to ISU versus Oklahoma a couple years ago when Hunter Deckers came in for Brock Purdy when Purdy got hit hard. Close game. OU came out on top. It's just a very cool stadium. And outside they have the Heisman Garden. So seeing all of the statues for the Heisman winners was really cool. And the statues of just the coaches and the Jordan brand is literally everywhere on that stadium. They have done a good job of marketing that they're a Jordan brand school. It's a cool, loud environment. And I wish I would be able to go back again, but I don't ever have a reason to go back to OU for anything. So, number 2, Hilton Coliseum.
Oh, wow. All right, go.
This place, when there's a big game, win or lose, it is such a loud environment, and I can't express how loud it gets when there is a big game or a big call or a big play, whatever it may be. And Dawson has been to one of those said big games where it gets very loud.
Yeah, thanks Jordan Bohannon for shushing the student section and then sucking. Yeah, thanks.
Lucky for you, it wasn't a close game because it would have been even worse for your experience. But Hilton's just a special place in my heart. It has to be too, just because of how much I've actually worked events there too. It's just I've done so much and been there so much that it's hard not to put it in my top 2. I wanted to put it at 1, but a few years ago, I went to a special place that will always be number 1 in my opinion for the
think I know where
greatest
this is.
arenas and stadiums. Allen Fieldhouse is unbelievable. Like, when I say they have the number 1 home court advantage in college basketball, until I am proven differently, they will always be number 1, and then the number 2 team would not be close. It's 10, 12 minutes before the game, and their show, and when I say show, I'm talking fan interaction has already started, and I cannot hear myself think. That's how loud it gets with 12 minutes before the game. Allen Fieldhouse is such a special place. I highly recommend anyone to go to any game. It doesn't even need to be your team versus Kansas. I might go this year. I think it's a Wednesday game, so that's a little difficult to make that work, a weekday game driving down to Kansas. But anytime I can go back to Allen Fieldhouse, I will. They have that Hall of Fame area that is literally a part of their arena, which is why they allow people in so early to see all the trophies of all their, I think it's their entire athletic department. I went with my brother Noah, and we were looking at their national championship trophies, and I just look at him and I'm like, are we trash? And that's all I said. Cool. I was like, are we trash? Because they hold Kansas basketball to a high standard, and the place is an old gym, but it's so loud and it's such a fun time. One of my favorite experiences ever as a college basketball fan and a sports fan as a whole. So Allen Fieldhouse will always, until proven differently, be number 1 in arenas and stadiums that I have been to. See, I put my bias aside, and I put Allen Fieldhouse at number 1.
Okay.
Were you thinking I was going to put Jack Trice in there?
Honestly, the way you were going is what? No, I didn't think Jack Trice. I thought you were going to put AT&T Stadium, the Cowboys one, when you went down to Big 12.
Honorable. I forgot to mention that. AT&T Stadium's an honorable mention. The only reason I won't list it is I didn't really get a chance to experience it because it was still 2021 and the COVID season was happening. Or no, 2020, the COVID season was happening. So they zip tied half of the seats. We tailgated outside literally until like 2 minutes before the game because we knew there wasn't going to be much going on inside because they limited everything. So we literally just got to our seats and watched the game and left. Honorable mention though, because it's cool going up the escalators and then you turn and you see all the Super Bowl trophies and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot. They did have good football for a little bit.
Yep.
Not in my lifetime.
Yeah, I haven't seen them make the NFC title game in my life. So,
but no, honorable mention if Iowa State ever makes it back to the Big 12 championship game and I go. Reason I say that is the odds of me going this year slim to none, and Slim just left. So, but anyways. That's my top 5 and Dawson's top 5 for stadiums and arenas that we've been to. We'll be back next week with another episode recapping all the news and events going on in the NFL. Be on the lookout for a Hardwood Convos episode released either later today or Thursday morning, as well as a 515 sports podcast episode. I got a little bit of a rant about the AP rankings upcoming, as well as the college football playoffs rankings as a whole. But for Dawson Livingston, I'm Brock Bierman. We are the Sports Nerds, and we will see you guys next week.